All right, this is Michael Imhotep. How's everybody doing today? It is Thursday, April 26, 2018. Breaking news story. It's been a very, very busy news day. We've been standing by waiting for a verdict in the Bill Cosby trial. Bill Cosby has been found guilty of 3 counts of sexual assault in the 2004 sexual assault of one Andrea Constand at his estate. Washington Post, New York Times, NBCnews.com is reporting on this. Bill Cosby found guilty of drugging and sexually assaulting woman at his estate in 2004. We see reported from the Washington Post. Just a second here. Let's pin this here. Everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. The 80-year-old comedian, once revered as America's dad, faces prison after a jury in Pennsylvania convicted him on all 3 counts in an often combative retrial of a case that ended in a mistrial in June of 2017. And that was the first celebrity trial of the hashtag Me Too era of awareness about sexual assault and harassment. Bill Cosby was found guilty of assaulting Andrea Constand, a Temple University women's basketball administrator whom he was mentoring. Okay, and I'm going to pull this article up also from the Washington Post as well. Okay. So she was a basketball player, women's basketball administrator for Temple University, whom he was mentoring. Okay. She was 30 at the time, and he was in his late 60s. Bill Cosby had argued that their relationship was consensual. Okay. I want to look at the reporting here from NBCnews.com. NBCnews.com. We'll pull this up here. Okay, let's look at NBCnews.com. Bill Cosby found guilty of sexual assault on retrial. Now, Cosby, 80 years old, faces a maximum of 10 years and a fine of up to $25,000 on each count. Sentencing has not happened yet. Sentencing has not happened yet. He was just found guilty moments ago. Okay. Now the jury returned with the guilty verdict Thursday afternoon after a second day of deliberations in which the judge read back testimony of the defense's star witness, who testified that Bill Cosby's main accuser once said she could frame a, quote, high-profile person, end quote. Okay, so this was a high-stakes retrial after a half a dozen women testified that Bill Cosby drugged and assaulted them also. So you have these women testifying in this case. Now, the jury also read back Bill Cosby's deposition testimony from 2005, where he admitted to giving a woman quaaludes in order to have sex with her. So we know that was something big. We know this came up in the previous trial. Bill Cosby, 80 years old, faces a maximum sentence of 10 years and a fine of up to $25,000 for each count. So the verdict was a victory for the hashtag Me Too movement, which has exposed sexual harassment and misconduct in entertainment, media, politics, and beyond. Okay, now Bill Cosby, who's 80 years old, who has faced dozens of sexual misconduct allegations spanning decades, was charged with 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault against Andrea Constand, who is now 45 years old. She claimed that Bill Cosby drugged and sexually assaulted her in his home in January 2004. Cosby's first trial ended in a mistrial back in June of 2017. Bill Cosby maintained that he was innocent. He maintained that the interactions and the contact were consensual. Okay, he's repeatedly denied all allegations against him. Now, a few hours after deliberations began on Wednesday, April 25th, 2018, the jury returned to the courtroom to ask, quote, what is the legal definition of consent? What is the legal definition of consent? The jury came back to ask the judge this question. But Montgomery County Common Pleas Judge Stephen O'Neill said that he could not give jurors a legal definition of consent, telling them that was something they would have to answer on their own using their own common sense. Okay, so the jury was asking for a legal definition of consent. The judge tells them, I can't give you a legal definition of consent. This is something you have to answer on your own using common sense. All right, so this may be in a, because there probably will be there will probably be a push for a retrial or a push to have this verdict overturned or something like that, and that may be a sticking point. Okay, now the verdict marked a dramatic culmination of an 18-year case that spanned 2 criminal trials and multiple police investigations. Assistant Montgomery County District Attorney Kristen Faden portrayed Bill Cosby as a sexual predator who used his TV image as a man of wholesome values to target women he believed he could silence. So in this trial, when you had the additional women who testified, they all basically said that they all basically testified to a pattern of Bill Cosby mentoring them, then making sexual advances, various ways, things like this. Prosecutors called 5 other women who alleged that Bill Cosby also sexually assaulted them in a manner similar to the way he assaulted Andrea Constand. A district attorney, Assistant Montgomery County District Attorney Kristen Faden said, quote, he preyed on Andrea Constand the same way he preyed on all those 5 women, end quote. Now, last month, March of 2018, O'Neill ruled, Judge Stephen O'Neill ruled that the additional accusers could testify, so the prosecution could try to establish that the assault on Andrea Constand fit a pattern, or that Bill Cosby did not make a mistake when he drugged and sexually assaulted Andrea Constand. Okay, everybody is tuned in. It is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I've been standing by waiting for the verdict in this trial. We have a breaking news story. Bill Cosby found on 3 counts of sexual assault and drugging Andrea Constand. This took place in 2004. Sentencing as of yet has not happened. He faces up to 10 years in prison on each count and up to a $25,000 fine on each count. It's a breaking news story. Bear with me as we get updates, okay? All right, so looking for the reporting from the Washington Post. All right, we're looking at NBCnews.com. How's everybody doing, okay? We'll come to some of your comments here in just a minute. Many of us grew up watching Bill Cosby. I grew up watching Bill Cosby. And over the past few years, I heard certain things. Personally, from hearing certain things and seeing different women, personally, I didn't think he, quote unquote, raped somebody, but I did think, for lack of a better word, I thought he was a freak. Okay, let me just say, lack of a better word. But I didn't think he raped anybody, but different things I'm hearing, he had sex with some of these women. Not all the accusers. I don't know if he raped anybody, but is, some stuff. But this here, he maintains it was consensual. Bill Cosby maintains that the sexual contact with Andrea Constand was consensual. Okay. Now, personally, I think you need to leave some of these women alone. That's just me. Don't hate me. I'm just saying. But but I don't think he raped some women. All right. Okay. But so last month, Judge Stephen O'Neill ruled that the additional accusers could testify, so the prosecution could try to establish a pattern. Okay, and that's what made the difference in this case over the mistrial. That's one of the main things that made the difference. Now, attorneys for Bill Cosby asked pointed questions about the accuser's history of drug abuse, okay, criminal backgrounds, personal relationships, and sex lives. Defense attorneys were especially hard on Janice Dickinson, a former supermodel. Okay, now she, if I remember correctly, she claimed that Bill Cosby raped her. I don't know. Okay. Cosby's lead attorney, Tom Mesereau, okay, said that Janice Dickinson asked Janice Dickinson whether she had spread false rumors about being pregnant with Sylvester Stallone's child. Okay. She said the remark was an honest mistake. Okay. She said, quote, I had sex with 2 men that month. He wasn't the only contender. She said, quote unquote, she said, garnering smiles from the jury. Okay. This is testimony from the trial. Cosby's lead attorney, Tom Mesereau, asked Janice Dickinson, the supermodel used to be on Tyra Banks' model show, right? America's Next Top Model. He asked her whether she had spread false rumors about being pregnant with Sylvester Stallone's child. She said the remark was an honest mistake. She said, quote, I had sex with 2 men that month. He was not the only contender, end quote. So what you're saying is you had unprotected sex with 2 men in the same month. That's basically what you're saying, okay? Now, defense attorney Kathleen Bliss described Janice Dickinson in closing arguments as a, quote, failed starlet, end quote, and a, quote, an aged out model, end quote. Sustained. All right. Quote, it sounds like she has slept with every single guy on the planet, end quote. Defense attorney Kathleen Bliss said. Now, that may be going too far. Okay. a little hyperbole there. Quote, is Miss Dickinson really the moral beacon that women's movements want? Is Miss Dickinson really the moral beacon that women's movements want? This is what one of Cosby's defense attorneys, Kathleen Bliss, asked. Now, the defense also suggested that Andrea Constand and the other accusers were making false accusations in the hope of gaining fame or fortune. They repeatedly pointed to nearly a $3.4 million payout that Andrea Constand received in 2006, the result of a civil settlement with Bill Cosby. And they highlighted lawyer Gloria Allred's proposal in 2014 to set aside a $100 million fund for victims of Bill Cosby if he was unwilling to waive the statute of limitations to allow his accusers to confront him in court. So we know that Gloria Allred handles a lot of high-profile cases. She's handling some of the accusers of Donald Trump. Okay, many people, you've seen Gloria Allred for years, and her daughter is an attorney, an accomplished attorney at that. Her daughter is Lisa Bloom. If you watch MSNBC, you'll see Lisa Bloom sometimes on, and if I remember correctly, she's also handling some of the accusers of Donald Trump as well. So I wonder if Donald Trump is going to comment on Bill Cosby being found guilty. I wonder if Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has at least 19 accusers of his own. So I wonder if Trump is going to say anything about this. Okay. All right. So now Gloria Allred and her daughter Lisa Bloom is also a lawyer, represent 4 of the 5 additional accusers who are allowed to testify. That's in this case with Bill Cosby. Okay. Some of the questions and arguments drew scorn from observers in the courtroom. Lily Bernard, another Bill Cosby accuser who sat in the courtroom for much of the trial, called the defense's closing argument highly objective. Okay, Lily Bernard said, quote, it was based solely on rape myths, on victim blaming, on victim shaming, and on a character assassination of really credible witnesses, of very righteous victims, of victims that were clearly telling the truth. Okay, Lily Bernard told reporters as the jury deliberated on Wednesday. Okay, so we have the article from Washington Post. Bear with me. This is a very fluid story, fast-breaking news story. So I'm looking at multiple sources for this. We'll come into your comments here in just a minute. How's everybody doing? I know some people are on lunch right now. Please share this broadcast on your Facebook page also. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. Many of you see me on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF in Detroit. I'm a talk show host there. Okay, but this is a Breaking news story here. Bill Cosby found guilty on 3 counts of sexual assault and drugging Andrea Constand. Took place in 2004. He faces up to 10 years on each account and up to a $25,000 fine. Okay. So we're sharing the information with you from NBCnews.com. NBCnews.com. Okay. So Lily Bernard went on to say, quote, "It was just a display of utter misogyny and buffoonery. And, you know, I'm just like, wow, how long can they go?" she said. Now, District Attorney Kevin Faden, Assistant District Attorney Kevin Faden, also sharply criticized, what's her name? Kathleen Bliss, I think is her name. Defense Attorney Kathleen Bliss, one of Cosby's defense attorneys. Just a second. So he sharply criticized her over what she called character assassination of the accusers. Okay, character assassination of the accusers. Quote, "That's character assassination that Miss Bliss put those women through was utterly shameful," she said. She's the exact reason why women victims of sexual assault and men don't report these crimes. Okay, so we've all heard about the hashtag Me Too movement. We know that the Me Too movement was started back in 2006 by an African-American woman named Tarana Burke, and it's since then been basically hijacked by white women. And we just heard earlier this week, she was interviewed by Tom Joyner, Tarana Burke, by Tom Joyner on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. And Jackie Reed was interviewing her, and they were talking about R. Kelly. And Tarana Burke asked Tom Joyner to stop playing R. Kelly's music. Okay. And Tom Joyner agreed. Now, the hashtag Me Too movement was a cloud over the defense attorney's closing arguments Tuesday. Okay, and let me share this here just a second. Let me share this here on personal page here. Okay, so the hashtag Me Too movement was a cloud over the defense attorney's closing arguments Tuesday, with Bliss telling jurors that they should not allow it to influence their decision. They should not allow it to influence their decision. Bliss is one of the attorneys for Bill Cosby. Okay. Okay, let's continue here. Okay, she said, "Don't get me wrong. Bad things definitely happen. But ladies and gentlemen, not every accusation is true. Your common sense tells you that. We do have to deal with sexual assault. It's a worldwide problem, just like we do with sexual harassment, pay disparity, and social inequity. But questioning an accuser is not shaming them," she added. Questioning an accuser is not shaming them. So this was the breaking news story from NBC News. Okay, so we're back for part 2. There was some technical difficulties there. We're back. Part 2, breaking news story. Bill Cosby found guilty on 3 counts of sexual assault. Okay, this just happened moments ago. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. Share this broadcast on your own Facebook page. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. We shared we'll put this on our YouTube channel also, Michael Imhotep on YouTube. We'll put this on our YouTube channel as well. Okay, so we shared the information with you from the NBCnews.com, the breaking news story. Bill Cosby found guilty on 3 counts of sexual assault against Andrea Constand. Took place in 2004 at his estate. He faces up to 10 years in prison for each count and up to a $25,000 fine. He's 80 years old. Sentencing has not happened yet. Sentencing has not happened yet. Okay. So everybody share this broadcast on Facebook. How's everybody doing? We'll come to your comments also. I want to get to the story from Washington Post. Okay, we just shared the story with you from NBCnews.com. NBCnews.com. We're going to go to the story from the Washington Post. It was just updated 2:13 p.m. just a few minutes ago from the Washington Post. All right. So, iconic entertainer Bill Cosby was convicted on 3 counts of sexual assault, a decision that punctuates one of the most thundering falls from grace in American cultural history. Cosby faces a maximum of 10 years for each count of assault. No sentencing date has been set as of yet. No sentencing date has been set as of yet. This guilty verdict just came in moments ago. Now, he was once one of the nation's most admired men, a pioneering African-American actor. We all know him as Cliff Huxtable from The Cosby Show. We've seen Fat Albert. We've seen movies, things of this nature. Now, Cosby was recast in a suburban Philadelphia courtroom as a merciless predator and sexual deviant. Not my words, theirs. This is how he was characterized in this trial. A 7-man, 5-woman jury took less than 2 days to convict Bill Cosby of drugging and sexually assaulting Andrea Constand, who was a Temple University women's basketball operations director more than 3 decades. His junior, who the comedian lured into his home with promises of mentorship. Now, during the 12 days of testimony and arguments in the first celebrity trial of the #MeToo era of awareness about sexual assault and harassment, Bill Cosby was often a silent figure. He sat at the head of the defense table beneath rows of massive iron chandeliers in a marble-clad courthouse built before the Civil War in this hard-scrabble city about 45 minutes northwest of Philadelphia. But the 80-year-old's face often betrayed his emotions as he sat at the head of the defense table with a pencil-thin wooden cane by his side. But on the final day before his case went to jury, Cosby laughed and smirked at the defense table. Then, in an extraordinary moment of courtroom drama, engaged in an uncomfortable stare down with prosecutor Kristen Faden, who is less than half his age. Okay, prosecutor Kristen Faden. Now, Kristen Faden, not Kevin Faden, Kristen Faden, prosecutor Kristen Faden. Okay, so Cosby, who ditched his signature lumpy sweaters for business suits with matching pocket handkerchiefs, glared at the purple carpet with a deep frown as Andrea Constand testified about the night in 2004 when she says the comic legend offered her 3 round blue pills that he called, quote unquote, your friends, ostensibly to help her relax. But when a Temple academic advisor testified that Andrea Constand had confided that she could extort a celebrity with a false story of sexual assault, Bill Cosby, almost giddy, smiling broadly, with his face turned to the packed courtroom audience and occasionally laughing with one hand cupped over his mouth. The academic advisor's testimony fit into a narrative that led a narrative laid out by the defense in which Andrea Constand was a quote unquote con artist. But prosecutors said it was actually Bill Cosby who staged a con by using his fatherly television image to trick Andrea Constand and other alleged victims to trust him so that he could drug them. Okay, so Cosby maintained throughout all of this that he was totally innocent and that the interactions with Andrea Constand were consensual. He did not deny that sexual contact did not happen. But he said that it was all consensual. Now, Cosby was charged with 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault in December 2015, just before a statute of limitations was set to expire. The courtroom saga played out in a setting that bore witness to Bill Cosby's greatly diminished role in American society. A year after his mistrial, and mistrial was in June of 2017, a year after his mistrial on the same charges, media and courthouse security far outnumbered spectators and demonstrators for his retrial. Cosby's reputation has suffered for years, initially because of his scolding, moralizing to African-American youth in the 2000s, then due to the avalanche of sexual accusers that began in late 2014 and now numbers at least 60. Now, the accusers are accusing different things. All of them are not accusing rape. All of them are not accusing sexual misconduct. They're accusing a number of different things. Some are grabbing. Some, you know, it's a number of different things. It's not all allegations of rape or necessarily sexual assault. Okay. Now, Bill Cosby, who says he is legally blind, arrived at the courthouse each morning on the arm of his public relations agent, Andrew Wyatt. On the opening day of the trial, their path was blocked when a topless protester leaped a barricade with the name of dozens of Cosby's accusers scrawled in blood in red letters. Okay. The woman scrawled in her skin in blood in blood red letters. The woman who was shoved into a bush by sheriff's deputies turned out to be former child actor Nicole Rochelle, who had a reoccurring role on the Cosby Show as a friend of Dr. Huxtable's daughter's Rudy, as a friend of his daughter Rudy's. Okay, I think her name was Danielle on the show. I think that she's very light skinned. On other days, a handful of demonstrators tried to disrupt Andrew Wyatt's periodic media statements by blowing bubbles and shouting. Okay, all right. So this is the article from Washington Post. You can check out the rest of it. Let's see. We know that 6 women testified. Here's 6 women, Constand, and 5 prior bad act witnesses testified in harrowing detail about the entertainer drugging them in incidents that stretched from the early 1980s until 2004. All say they were summoned by Cosby in one way or another, dazzled by his fame and trusting because of his family man image. Former supermodel Janice Dickinson, who we talked about in the previous broadcast. Janice Dickinson testified about leaving a photo shoot in Bali, B-A-L-I, because the famed comedian offered help with her singing career. I didn't know she could sing or wanted to sing. Heidi Thomas, Lislott Lublin, Shalane Lasha told jurors how Cosby promised to mentor their acting careers and put them at ease by speaking with their parents or grandparents. Andrea Constand, the primary accuser, sought the comedian's advice on entering sports broadcasting at a juncture in her life when she was considering leaving her job as operations director of the Temple University women's basketball team. Okay. But once they were along with Bill Cosby, the women said he slipped them pills or drinks and left them in various states of unconsciousness. Janice Dickinson said the pills he gave her for her menstrual cramps left her unable to move or, quote, get the words out I wanted to say, end quote. Andrea Constand said she was, quote unquote, frozen and seeing double. Another witness, Janice Baker Kinney, said she, quote, face planted, end quote, into a backgammon, the board game backgammon, accepting 2 quaaludes from Cosby, after accepting 2 quaaludes from Cosby. Afterward, the women who had once admired Bill Cosby said they feared him. Okay. Lublin described receiving a threatening phone call from Bill Cosby. Baker Kinney remembered Cosby holding a finger to his lips to indicate she should keep quiet. Janice Dickinson said she wanted to tell her story of being raped by Cosby in a memoir, but was dissuaded by her publisher's lawyers, who warned of Cosby's reputation for scorched earth litigiousness, okay, meaning suing, taking them to court. But in the safer confines of the courtroom here, the women were free to speak their minds. Janice Dickinson called Cosby, quote unquote, a monster. Thomas labeled him a, quote unquote, serial rapist. Lead defense attorney Tom Mesereau parried the testimony by smoothly unspooling a counter narrative in which Andrea Constand played the role of methodical extortionist, and the other accusers were greedy opportunists supposedly intent on getting a piece of a non-existent $100 million victims fund that that famed celebrity attorney Gloria Allred had briefly proposed. In a blunt opening statement and later in a bare knuckles cross-examination of Andrea Constand, Tom Mesereau, lead defense attorney, painted an image of the former professional basketball player as desperate, financially troubled, and manipulative. The other women were bashed too. Tom Mesereau's co-counsel, a hard-driving former federal prosecutor named Kathleen Bliss, called Janice Dickinson, quote, an aged out model, end quote. Bliss said Thomas, who never achieved dreams of acting stardom, was, quote, living the dream now, end quote, while supposedly reveling in publicity about the Cosby case. So in the first, and we'll come to your comments here in just a minute, in the article from NBC, now this is the one from Washington Post, okay? Bill Cosby convicted on, Bill Cosby found guilty of drugging and sexually assaulting women at his estate in 2004. In the article from NBC News, I don't know if they have it in this one from the Washington Post, and MSNBC reported this today also. The jury asked the judge for the legal definition of consent. The judge said he could not give them the legal definition of consent. He said a few hours after deliberations began on Wednesday, April 25th, 2018. The jury returned to the courtroom to ask, quote, what is the legal definition of consent? What is the legal definition of consent? But Judge O'Neill said that he could not give jurors a legal definition, telling them that was something that they would have to answer on their own using their own common sense. Okay? But here's the thing. If you have a jury asking you for a legal definition of consent, what is it? Probably the reason why they're asking is because they're confused on what the legal definition of consent. What's the threshold? So this may be a sticking point in a push for a retrial. This right here, and this was reported in NBC News, the article from NBCnews.com. Bill Cosby found guilty of sexual assault and retrial. We'll post a link here on the thread of the broadcast, okay? But I don't even understand that. If you have a jury asking you what's the legal definition of consent, and the argument is over whether this was consensual sex or not. To me, I'm not an attorney, but I've studied a lot of cases. To me, for a judge to say, I can't give you a legal definition of consent, something's wrong with that. Something's just wrong with that to me. Okay? All right, let's go to some of your comments here. How's everybody doing? This is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show, dealing with this breaking news story of Bill Cosby found guilty on 3 counts of sexual assault and drugging Andrea Constand in 2004. Each count could get him up to 10 years in prison. Sentencing has not happened yet. A sentencing date has not happened yet. Each count could get him up to 10 years in prison and up to a $25,000 fine. Okay. All right. And those that watch us on Facebook, hey, follow our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, the African History Network. We do broadcasts here a lot daily. I teach online courses as well, dealing with our history. We just posted information there about the online courses that I teach as well. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. I know some people can't watch the Facebook Live broadcast a lot, so we have audio podcasts of these broadcasts that I do as well at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can download them, and they're also on our iTunes channel, the African History Network show on iTunes. Okay, the African History Network show on iTunes. Okay, Joseph Strouder, said the trail was pure BS, strategically placed by white America. Okay, on iTunes, the African History Network show. Okay. Glenda said, I'm not hating Bill Cosby. Cosby, not Crosby. Bill Cosby. But this is true. Guilty is guilty. Yeah, see, I want to hear from his attorneys, and I want to hear about, because to me, this is a sticking point dealing with the judge not giving the jury a legal definition of consent when the jury comes and asks the judge for a legal definition of consent. Deborah says, shaking my head, why wait so many years? And why the hell would you take pills from someone if you don't have your own pain pills? Common sense would tell you not to take someone else's pills. I don't care who the person is. Okay, who's Judy? Joseph said those women were never raped. Lahana Love said these are same people we wonder why they did nothing for black communities. They do something, use their roles to head out children to be raped by elite. Okay, I'm not sure what you're talking about. TJ said Dr. Cosby will do a year, if not house arrest. Yeah, it's not expected that he will be sentenced to 10 years. I was hearing one of the legal experts on MSNBC, but based upon the sentencing guidelines, he could be sentenced up to 10 years for each count. He's 80 years old. It's estimated that he would do like 2.5 years in prison, but this is you're talking about state prison though. It would be state prison. This wouldn't be federal prison. This would be state prison. Dante McCrae said, I don't doubt he did some foul things, but things from this case did not add up. Yeah, I agree. There was things that just the number of contacts that Andrea Constand continued to have with Bill Cosby. You know, there's just some things that didn't add up. I think the first trial was a mistrial for a reason. Chester said he messed up trying to buy NBC. Well, he tried to buy NBC back in 1992. You know, like I heard people saying, oh, well, his son was killed because he tried to buy NBC. His son was killed in 97. He tried to buy NBC in 92. What's the connection? Why would they wait 5 years to kill his son? I mean, come on. Some of these conspiracy theories, when you like apply logic, they don't make sense. Let's see. Tory Bryant, do you think he is really guilty of the crimes? This one here, I mean, from what I'm seeing, it seems consensual. And there's some other things here. Testimony from a witness that Andrea Constand confided in that she could extort celebrities. You know, so this one, once again, Bill Cosby, one, maintained his innocence, two, maintained that the contact was consensual. Dante said, not to mention, hold on, Dante, let's go back to your comment. It's jumping around. Okay, Dante said that, hold on. Okay, Frank said, interesting, Bill has not been the heavy hitter he became to be, saying that white women can blame a black man for anything in 2018. Whole word is bond. Asked Susan Smith in the late 50s into the 80s. Okay. All right, how you doing, Brittany? TJ, Dr. Cosby is in the SUV. Yeah, the SUV is pulling off. Arnett said they build you up and break you down. Well, I mean, now let's be clear. You know, when you look at some of this stuff, it's clear Bill Cosby is kind of a freak. I mean, that ain't made up. Now, saying he raped somebody, that's something entirely different. But in hearing all this stuff for years, it's clear Bill Cosby, it seems like he's a little freaky. Okay? I'm just saying. All right? But that's different than sexual assault. All right. Joseph said black men stay away from white women. Sustained. I can't argue with that one. You know, now that does not mean it's all right to sexually assault black women. That's not what we're saying. Okay? We're not saying stay away from white women so you can sexually assault black women. That's not what we're saying. But Joseph said stay away from white women. Sustained. All right. Okay, Traylon said, I absolutely agree. Consent is a big factor. If themselves decided to take the drug, if they decided to take the drug, it was a totally different world back then. Right. Now this case was 2004. This incident happened in 2004. There were other cases. There were 5 other women who were allowed to testify, cases going back to the 80s. All right. But this specific case with Andrea Constand, this incident took place in 2004. Kenneth McRae said judge refused to give jurors legal definition of consent. Yeah, correct. Consider the legal question was if he had consent, this appears to be a major sticking point and will probably result in a motion to have the conviction overturned. Because that's what it sounds like to me. That sounds like there's going to be a sticking point, and it's going to cause his attorneys to push to have this conviction overturned, maybe have another trial. Because that's problematic right there. I have not heard of something like this. Think about this, right? The case is a sexual assault case. The case, the charges were not about he stole something. The charges were a sexual assault case. You have the defendant saying it was consensual. You have the you have the plaintiff saying it was not consensual. The jury asked the judge, what's the legal definition of consensual sex? Because they have to rule based upon the law. The judge said, I can't give you a legal definition. Use your own common sense. That doesn't seem right. Okay. This man was trying to buy CBS, and he tried to buy NBC 26 years ago. What does that have to do with what happened in 2004? He tried to buy NBC in 92. That was 26 years ago. Okay. Walia Sean Miller said their mission was accomplished. They destroyed his character. We'll see, because I think there's going to be a motion to overturn this conviction. Does he have to go to jail? A sentencing date has not been set yet. He's just been found guilty. Okay. About half hour, 45 minutes ago. A sentencing date has not been set yet. Found guilty on all counts, Maria, yes. All 3 counts of sexual assault and sexual assault and drugging. Okay, let's recap for those just tuning in. This is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. Oftentimes you see me in the studios at 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF, where I'm a radio talk show host there. On Sunday nights, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. we're talking about the breaking news story. Bill Cosby found guilty of sexual assault in retrial. Bill Cosby faces a maximum sentence of 10 years for each count and a fine of up to $25,000 on each count. Okay. The jury found Bill Cosby guilty on all 3 counts on Thursday afternoon, April 26, 2018, drawing an emotional reaction from accusers. Cosby remains free on bail until sentencing. Cosby remains free on bail until sentencing, okay? Because this article from NBC News was just updated at 2:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a fast-breaking news story. This is a very fluid story, okay? So you're going to get updates, okay? Upon reading the first guilty verdict, several of Cosby's alleged prior victims sobbed and shook with joy. All right. So yeah, this was found guilty of drugging and sexually assaulting Andrea Constand in his home in January of 2004. Andrea Constand is now 45 years old. She's about 30 years old at the time. Cosby was 60 years old. The jury also read back Cosby's deposition testimony from 2005, where the comedian admitted to giving a woman quaaludes in order to have sex with her. Now, his current attorneys, because I remember Tom Mesereau and one of his other current attorneys, and for a while, Monique Presley, African-American female Monique Presley, she was one of his attorneys, but she left, I think before the June 2017 trial, before that trial actually went to trial, she left his legal defense team. But you had some of his attorneys, Tom Mesereau may have been the one that said it, that if he had been Cosby's attorney back then in 2005, he never would have agreed to a deposition, because his deposition was used against him. Okay. All right. Let's go to some more of your comments here. Everybody, be sure to visit our website also, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have a lot of information there for you. We have articles that I write, audio podcasts. So I know a lot of people can't watch the Facebook Live broadcasts all the way through. We have audio podcasts for you of these Facebook Live broadcasts at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. They're also on our iTunes channel, the African History Network show on iTunes. While Leah Sean said, Miller said, so what, sex, drugs, and alcohol was the thing back then. It was consensual. When you meet up with a married man in private settings. Well, now back then, this is 2000, it took place in 2004, not 1974, 2004. Okay, we're talking about 14 years ago. Vincent Thomas, I was in entertainment for years. You'd be surprised at what they're capable of. Not really. I used to work at a radio station. No, another radio station. Not 1980. No, I used to work at another radio station. I've been around celebrities before, and I've been around celebrities, athletes, adult film stars, stuff. I used to have clients who were promoters of entertainers. I got to meet a lot of entertainers, so I've heard some crazy things. Okay, so they were not all white women, Jones said. Yeah, that's true. They were not all white women. Most of them were white, but they were not all white women. Let's see. Ade Asijo said, Frank Noble, I agree. The black man is a victim. Real talk, stay away. Mike Jones said, stay away. So that was a comment probably he was referring to from Joshua earlier. Joshua said, black men stay away from white women. Sustained. Okay. All right. Also, I'm going to do a broadcast today dealing with an update in the Waffle House case out of Saraland Park, Alabama. Saraland, Alabama, I should say. I'm not sure it's Saraland Park. Saraland, Alabama, dealing with Chiquisha Clemens, 25 years old. We're going to do an update on that as well. All right. I have a feeling we don't have a legal definition of consent, and that's why the judge didn't give them anything, Kamala Phoenix said. Well, if there is no legal definition of consent, then the judge should have said there is no legal definition of consent. The judge said, I can't give you a legal definition of consent. That's different. If there is no legal definition of consent, then the judge should have said that. But that's still problematic. That's still problematic, because then that means the jury was confused about what consent legally is. If there is no legal definition of consent, I don't know if that's true, that there is no legal definition of consent. Frank said, if you go into the mass majority of people, bedroom is supposed to be freaky. Okay. I don't know if they were actually in his bedroom. They were at his home. S.C. Williams said they are trying to make an example of Bill. Maria said we have no definition of consent. What the hell? Jones said they were in his room. That does not give him the right to drug them. All right. Those in the Detroit area, I want to let you know that some of you already know I am doing a lecture, doing a presentation Friday, April 27th, 2018, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in Oak Park, Michigan. Oak Park, Michigan, at the Crown Point building. It's an office building, 25900 Greenfield Road, Suite 340. I'm doing 2 presentations, the role of black women in the film Black Panther, the role of black women in the film Black Panther, and lessons from the film Black Panther, economic guerrilla warfare, political self-defense, and how to Wakanda the vote, okay? We have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We just posted information here. It's on our fan page, the African History Network. It's a pre-event, donations accepted. Come on out. Okay, and we have some of my presentations dealing with the film Black Panther at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com also. Very, very deep movie. I'm going to try to go see Avengers Infinity War tonight, so I'll be ready for the presentation tomorrow also. Okay, so this is a stunner. After, you know, as I was hearing some things that were taking place in the trials that was going on, and I was saying, you know, this one isn't looking good for Bill. Seriously, you know. So what's interesting is Donald Trump going to comment on this? Donald Trump has 19 accusers himself, at least. We know Donald Trump was with Stormy Daniels. Donald Trump admitted this morning on Fox News. Donald Trump made 2 huge legal errors this morning on Fox News. He admitted that Michael Cohen was involved in, was representing him in the Stormy Daniels case. Okay. ThinkProgress.org has an article. Let's refresh this. Trump made 2 costly legal errors during unhinged Fox and Friends interview. So Trump has 19 accusers of his own. Okay. And I don't think that includes Stormy Daniels. So is Trump going to comment on this? Because if Trump comments on this, that opens up the floodgates. Okay. And let me just share this with you here quickly. So thinkprogress.org. Trump made 2 costly legal errors during unhinged Fox and Friends interview. That was this morning, if you didn't see it. Donald Trump made 2 significant legal errors during a Fox and Friends phone-in interview on Thursday morning, April 26, 2018, during which he became audibly agitated about special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. At one point, yelling about FBI raids on his former campaign chair, Paul Manafort, and his personal attorney, Michael Cohen. The first mistake, Trump claimed that Michael Cohen, his longtime personal lawyer and fixer, only represented him in, quote, a tiny, tiny little fraction, end quote, of all his overall legal work. He said, quote, Michael is in business. He's really a businessman, a fairly big business. As I understand it, I don't know his business, but this doesn't have to do with me, end quote. Trump said, attempting to distance himself from Michael Cohen. He went on to say, quote, Michael is a businessman. He's got a business. He also practices law. I would say probably the big thing is his business, and they're looking at something to do with his business. This doesn't have to do with me. I have many attorneys, sadly. I have so many attorneys you wouldn't ever believe it, end quote. So Trump's comments come a day after a lawyer representing him told a federal judge that Trump himself, quote, is ready to help recommend what material seized from his personal attorney that relate to him should be withheld from federal investigators because of attorney-client privilege, end quote, according to the Associated Press. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, and then another point, Trump accused former FBI Director James Comey of lying in memos he wrote about his interactions of Trump before he was fired. In them, Comey claims that Trump repeatedly told him he did not spend a single night in Moscow during his November 2013 trip there, a claim that, if true, would represent an alibi for a salacious claim in an intelligence dossier about Russia having evidence that Trump engaged in sex acts with Russian sex workers during that trip. Quote, "Those memos were about me and their phony memos," Trump said on Fox and Friends. Quote, "He didn't write those memos accurately. He put a lot of phony stuff. For instance, I went to Russia for a day or two, because I own the Miss Universe pageant. So I went there to watch it because it was near Moscow. So I go to Russia. Now everybody knows the logs are there. The planes are there," he said. "I didn't stay there a night. Of course I stayed there. I stayed there a very short period of time, but of course I stayed. Well, his memo said I left immediately. I never said that. I never left immediately," end quote. All right. So Trump was clearly agitated throughout the interview. After his ill-considered comments about Michael Cohen, Fox and Friends host, quickly steered him to talking about his bromance with Kanye West. By the end of the interview, the conversation drifted back to Robert Mueller, special counsel Robert Mueller, and Trump's frustrations with the ongoing investigation into himself and his campaign became clear once again. All right. So check out this article here. And at the end, they cut him off. They cut him off. You know, now usually you don't cut off the president of the United States. You just let him go ahead and talk. So I wonder why they cut him off. So I wonder why they cut him off. I think it's because they knew he was saying things that were incriminating himself. Okay. Let's go to some more of your comments. We're going to get out of here because I have to do this other broadcast. And I'm working on my presentation for Friday. I'm doing 2 presentations dealing with the film Black Panther. You may have seen here, okay, those watching, follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. The African History Network, okay? We have a lot of information here. We post articles throughout the day. And we have Facebook Live broadcasts also. And then we have 12 hours left in our 24-hour sale. We have the 8 DVD bundle pack, a Black Panther bundle pack, where you get 2 of my presentations deal with Black Panther. You get some documentaries, the 1804 documentary, 2 documentaries I'm in, Elementary Genocide Part 3, Black Friday Part 2. Some of my other presentations is all on sale right now for $80. We just posted it there. It's also available at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Now Rico said, I'm about to print up some consent forms because a man can get caught up. If a woman is under the influence of alcohol or drugs, she can give consent. If this is true, 99% of men are guilty. Okay. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I don't one, I don't do drugs. 2, I don't hang around people that do drugs. 3, I usually don't engage. I can't remember. I don't engage with women who are high. I don't get into that. I'm not into that. Now he's right. And I don't drink. I'm usually not around women that drink. So Rico says something that's important, because even if it is something that you perceive as consensual, if the woman is intoxicated, when she becomes sober, she may say something different. Or she may perceive something different. She may perceive you took advantage of her. Not necessarily, I don't know if you would call that necessarily rape, but there may be a different understanding. One party may perceive it one way, the other party may perceive the other way, say, look, I was drunk. I really didn't know what I was doing. So you have to be careful. You know, I'm not a drinker. I haven't had a drink in like 12 years. I don't do drugs. I've never use marijuana, never smoked marijuana, never had a desire to smoke marijuana, use marijuana, any of that stuff. Okay. So that's something important to keep in mind. Corray's Love said, I ask again, what about the free without a thought of prosecution, while men that done far worse? Well, he's free on bail. So sometimes in cases like this, sometimes in cases where it's a non-violent case, sometimes in cases, and he's 80 years old also. You have a situation where he's able to stay free on bail until sentencing. He has not been sentenced yet. No sentence date has been set yet as of a few minutes ago, looking at the reporting from Washington Post. And yeah, no sentencing date has been set yet as of yet. Okay. So he's free on bond. So the comedian exploded. So Bill Cosby's composure slipped when the jury filed out. According to the reporting from Washington Post, the comedian exploded in anger as District Attorney Kevin Steele argued that Bill Cosby has access to a private plane and should have his $1 million bail revoked because he might be a flight risk. Bill Cosby shouted in an ear-splitting roar that startled the courtroom and sit necks craning for a glimpse of his moment of distilled rage. Bill Cosby said he doesn't have a plane. He doesn't know. This is what Cosby yelled out in the courtroom. Now, Stephen T. O'Neill, the Montgomery County judge who oversaw the case, declined to revoke Bill Cosby's bail, but sternly ordered him not to leave his estate in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, a short drive away. And this article was just updated at 2:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like I said, this is a fluid story, okay? Bill Cosby paused for a moment before leaving the courtroom. He slumped ever so slightly at the defense table. He leaned on a slender cane, his constant companion during the long courtroom battles. His public relations agents extended a hand, but the TV funny man, the curmudgeonly father figure, was surrounded only by people on his payroll. Attorneys and publicists encircled him, but his two adult daughters, absent throughout the trial, were nowhere to be seen. His wife, Camille Cosby, who appeared only for closing arguments, was not there either. Moments before the verdict was read, as Bill Cosby awaited the jury's decision, he sat motionless at the defense table in a dark blue suit and red tie, staring into space. He had often been chatty and jovial with his defense team before testimony began during the long days of the trial. But on Thursday, the face of the aging comedian, his head shaved close to his scalp, bore a grim aspect, his eyelids heavy. Okay? So, all right, we'll post a link of this article here from the Washington Post. This is just updated. Bill Cosby convicted on 3 counts of sexual assault. Bill Cosby convicted on 3 counts of sexual assault. And at the same time, you know, something has to be said about being careful not to put yourself in certain situations also. You know, and as I said in the previous broadcast, you know, you go back and look at some of these cases, you know, it's clear Bill Cosby is a freak. You know, I'm just saying, rape is something different. You know, it's clear Bill Cosby done some freaky things. All right, now, Wendell said, and they weren't there for a reason. I think he's referring to his daughter and his wife. Shamber McHenry said, wow, and the president. Yeah. And like I said, now it's going to be interesting to see if Bill Cosby, if Donald Trump comments on this verdict at all. because Trump has at least 19 accusers of his own. Okay, and we know Stormy Daniels, her attorney's talking, and also the Playboy playmate, she's free to tell her story. So Trump Trump is in deep trouble himself. Karen Jenkins, the women closest to home were noticeably absent. What does that tell you? They could be a little pissed off at him. They could be a little fed up with him. Or maybe they wanted to avoid the questions or what have you. Who knows? Joseph said, pure witch hunt by white America. Let's see here. Frank said, go to Mexico or Canada, Underground Railroad, my brother. Lahana said, hell no, they are embarrassed. They knew what was going down. Okay. Ryko said, a man can't use being under the influence as an excuse for committing a crime. All right. Okay. All right, guys. So let's see. His name is Bill. Now, okay. All right. All right, guys. Look, we got to get out of here. Hey, remember at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now it's correct wrong behavior. If you like this type of information, if you like the information we share here at the African History Network, because you know I teach online courses as well. We have them on demand at our online school. Online courses, we have a bundle pack of about 10 courses right now. They're on sale for a short time only for $60. That includes Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Also includes Great African Women in History, the Mothers of Civilization, African American Resistance in the Era of Donald Trump. There's a lot of courses. They're all on demand. You can view them from around the world. We just posted the link there, and you can start watching as soon as you register. You can also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, as well. And then also be sure to sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter as well. We send that out a few times a week, a lot of information in there, articles, etc. And then also, if you like the information we share, you can donate to the African History Network also. Through PayPal. That helps us to stay on the air, keep doing the research, pay the bills, stay on the air. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. Okay. Yvonne said, can we get back to Bill Cosby or I am out? We're done. We've done like an hour, almost an hour and a half on Bill Cosby. We're done. We're signing off. Ricky said, Me Too movement convicted him, not the jury. Well, see, keep him. The Me Too movement is going on. The trial, remember, this is the second trial. The first trial was a mistrial. That was June of 2017. That was before the hashtag Me Too movement basically started. Okay, that was really before it really got underway. Okay, the hashtag Me Too movement. The Me Too movement really took off because of Harvey Weinstein. Okay, so because that trial in June of 2017 ended in a mistrial, then you have this trial here. Okay, now, one of the sticking points, one of the problems you're going to hear is that the jury asked the judge on Wednesday, after deliberations started, about 3 hours into deliberations, the jury comes back to the courtroom and asks the judge for a legal definition of consent. The judge says, I can't give you a legal definition of consent. He said, use your own common sense. Now, some people speculate, some people are not attorneys. I'm not an attorney, but the first one to admit that, but I do study a lot and study cases. Some people say, well, maybe there's no legal definition of consent, but according to the reporting, the judge did not say there's no legal definition of consent. The judge said, I can't give you a legal definition of consent, which is different. All right, so, hey, remember at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you have been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Imhotep, Wakanda forever. Those in Detroit, I'll see you Friday, April 27th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Crown Point building in Oak Park, Michigan, 25900 Greenfield Road in Oak Park, Michigan, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. For a double presentation that I'm doing dealing with the film Black Panther. We'll post the information here, and it's at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Talk to y'all later. Peace.